On April 30th, 2026, NYPD officers responded to what at first seemed like a routine domestic dispute at a quiet home on 130th Street in South Ozone Park, Queens. Calls like these happen every day, and while officers know they can sometimes become unpredictable, most never turn into anything beyond calming people down and making sure everyone is safe.
What's his name?
The home was a multi-unit residence where several family members lived, including a woman, her daughter, and 2 young grandchildren in the basement apartment. According to reports, there had been tension within the family before, but nobody expected what would happen that night.
Yo! You alright? The guy just lit the house on fire. We got an explosion. Who's left?
A 50-year-old man named Anroop Parisram had arrived at the property intoxicated and carrying a knife. Investigators later said he forced his way into the basement by pushing through an air conditioning unit and entered carrying bags that reportedly contained unknown canisters. Inside, he began threatening his estranged wife. Fortunately, the woman and the children were able to leave safely and call 911.
6 Sergeant. FD. You guys good?
7 officers and 1 sergeant were injured in the blast. Despite burns, bruises, and in one case a head injury that required stitches, the officers quickly checked on one another and then did something that surprised many people watching the footage later. Instead of backing away, they went back toward the burning building. Knowing people could still be inside, they re-entered dangerous conditions to search the structure and help evacuate anyone who remained. Their actions were later credited with helping prevent an even worse outcome. All 8 officers were transported to the hospital and were expected to recover. Reports later stated that most either returned to duty or were progressing well in recovery. Investigators later focused on what caused the blast. Early reports suggested the explosion was fueled by gas and may have been connected to actions taken inside the basement, possibly involving the canisters or deliberate tampering. Since Parisram died in the incident, no criminal case moved forward after the investigation.
The noise was so loud that it woke us up, and when we looked through the window, there was fire. I'm traumatized. Going to sleep thinking if something else gonna happen.
I'm literally sleeping. I heard the explosion. Like, my bed went up and then down. And I thought we were I keep saying I thought we were at war. I thought we got bombed.
Just hearing the stories about somebody coming in and because of domestic violence, lighting a fire and just the house exploding. It's just a crazy story to even think about.
It's not every day you hear about a house blowing up.
Officials believe he died in the explosion and fire. Some reports state he may have intentionally set himself on fire or triggered the blast while inside, possibly using the canisters or by tampering with the gas. Fortunately, the family had already escaped, and the officers were able to react quickly after the blast. But for everyone involved, what began as a normal emergency call turned into something nobody arriving that night could have predicted. On May 16, 2026, a quiet family home on Mount Gallant Road in Rock Hill, South Carolina, became the scene of absolute terror. You see, this wasn't just any house. It was the home of the Tidwell family, a place where 19-year-old Camaria Tidwell lived with her loved ones. Just days earlier, on May 12th, someone had already fired shots into the residence, shattering windows and leaving bullet holes. The family was scared. They called the police, and the very next day they installed security cameras, hoping it would bring them peace of mind. But on that Saturday morning, a man showed up again. His name was Sean Hubbard, 34 years old, from nearby Clover. He walked straight up to the front door like he had every right to be there. What happened next was caught on the brand new doorbell camera. one was home at the time. No one got hurt in that first attack, but the family was terrified. They called the police again. Officers searched the area and even checked Hubbard's last known address. Everyone thought the worst was over until it wasn't. Later that same night, around 11 p.m., Hubbard came back. This time, the return visit turned deadly. 19-year-old Camaria Tidwell, an innocent young woman described by her family as bright, humble, and an absolute angel, was shot outside the home. She didn't survive. The same surveillance cameras that had captured the daytime shotgun blast also recorded Hubbard walking around the property with the gun just before the fatal shooting. Police say Camaria was not the intended target. The real target was likely someone else in the household. The very next morning, May 17th, York County SWAT and Rock Hill Police tracked Hubbard down more than 20 miles away near Lake Wylie. They arrested him without incident. He now faces serious charges: murder, possession of a weapon during a violent crime, and discharging a firearm into a dwelling. Hubbard, a convicted felon who had recently been released from prison, is currently sitting in York County Jail, held without bond. As of today, there has been no trial and no verdict. The case is still moving through the courts. A memorial and balloon release were held for Camaria just days ago, as her family continues to grieve the unimaginable loss of their daughter and sister. The motive appears to stem from a dispute over mechanical work Hubbard had been doing on a family member's car, work that was hired through social media. When the cousin told him she no longer wanted his services, things escalated badly. The family has been vocal about their frustration, saying they feel police didn't do enough to protect them after the earlier shootings, even though they had already identified Hubbard as a suspect. What makes this case even more chilling is the clear video evidence. The doorbell footage of that daytime shotgun blast and the nighttime surveillance of Hubbard on the property have been shared widely, and they are hard to watch. Many are now asking the same questions. How did this man keep returning to the same house? Why wasn't more done after the first two incidents? And how many more families have to live in fear before something changes? This should never have happened. A young woman with her whole life ahead of her is gone. A family is shattered, and a man accused of turning their home into a war zone sits behind bars awaiting his day in court. Justice for Camaria Tidwell is still pending, but the evidence is already speaking loud and clear. On September 26, 2025, a 72-year-old grandmother named Yolanda Ramirez went to her brother's home on Broderick Drive in Brentwood, California, for what should have been a normal family errand. She had planned to pick him up and take him to a scheduled doctor's appointment before returning home later that day.
Hello, police.
Hi.
Hi.
Look, I'm his sister.
Yeah, okay. Can you do me a favor and just go wait out at the sidewalk, please?
Pass along first. Okay.
Okay.
Hi.
Well,
She just broke.
Okay.
No,
Let's
it's
go.
just an accident.
Yeah.
Get back.
All right, let's
That's
go
not
inside.
an accident.
Okay,
I got a little
let's all go inside, please.
Get back inside, he said.
Okay.
Get back inside, he said.
Yeah, but leave my sister alone.
Yeah, we're going to talk to everyone about what happened, okay?
At some point during the visit, a disagreement started between Yolanda and her elderly sister Sylvia, who lived at the house. According to reports, the argument remained verbal, but tensions grew enough that Sylvia called 911 and reported the family dispute. Sylvia also requested what is known under California law as a citizen's arrest, a process that allows private citizens in certain situations to ask officers to make an arrest for misdemeanor conduct.
I'd like to file a vandalism.
So, with regards to what?
She grabbed my cup and threw it on the floor. She kicked my door.
Okay, so let's look at the door. Okay. Yeah, there's no damage to the door.
And she threw this, and my cup, see it over there? It's all broken.
Okay.
I had a cup of coffee right here.
Okay.
She grabbed it and threw it right there.
Okay.
And she's kicking my door.
So kicking the door isn't damage, but yes, I see that the cup is broken, and if that's really what you want to do, then we can do that.
I would like that.
Okay, so
Officer Chia began speaking with Yolanda to gather basic information for the report, but she refused to provide her date of birth and questioned why the officer was interrogating her.
The sidewalk for me? You want to just wait on the sidewalk for me? Is it your car?
On the sidewalk?
Yeah, right here by your car.
That's not an accident.
Why?
I got a little
I'm right here. I'm not doing anything to her.
I understand that. but she's called the police. Is it?
I know, but let me tell you, she is crazy. She's a nut.
I know.
She won't let him out.
Let's go talk on the sidewalk by your car. What's your date of birth?
You know, I just want to see my brother.
Okay. I'm just asking you for your date of birth.
Yeah, for what?
So that I can figure out who you are.
Oh my God, I've lived here all my life. Why all of a sudden you're interested? And
All of a sudden I'm interested because someone called 911.
While she was being interrogated, she suddenly moved toward her car, apparently trying to leave the scene of the incident where this happened.
Means there is a good. What's that? Wait a minute.
what?
No. Okay, you are not free to go. You are not free to go. You're about to get arrested if you don't stop. Please.
Why am I going to be arrested?
Okay, because
I want to see my brother?
Because now you're impeding an investigation, all right? So there are allegations of crimes that have happened. If you don't sit down
What
right
crimes
now,
here?
go sit
What
down
did I
right
do?
now, otherwise
Just
you're
go
going to
sit
get
down.
arrested.
Do you want to
Stop.
be put in handcuffs, Yolanda?
I am about to arrest you.
Oh my
ma'am.
God.
Please stop. I don't want to hurt you.
You are
Please,
hurting
then
me.
leave your hand behind
My
your back.
birthday is...
Oh, we're way past that, Yolanda.
You're now going to jail. You're now going to jail, ma'am.
Let me go. I'm
No,
going to
you're
call
going
my
to jail.
husband.
No, you're going to jail now.
Officers repeatedly instructed her to stop, provide identifying information, and cooperate. For a while, nothing appeared unusual. The officers continued speaking with her and gave multiple warnings, but when she still refused to enter the patrol vehicle, they eventually moved to physically place her inside. The 72-year-old woman was lifted into the back seat, handcuffed, and secured. Then, within a very short period of time, the situation changed.
Oh, please!
What are you messing with here? What? What are you touching right here? Okay, what's your name?
Yolanda.
Yolanda, you need to step out of the car, okay? Yolanda, you need to get out of the car. Yolanda, you need to get out of the car.
Officers appeared to recognize that something was wrong and immediately shifted their attention from the arrest to medical care. They released her from custody, called paramedics, and began providing assistance while waiting for emergency crews to arrive.
Well, you gotta step out of the car. You gotta move. Come on.
Get out of the car, please. Can you sit up? That might help your breathing. Here, sit up. Just sit up. That might help your breathing. So you can expand your lungs.
She's conscious. She's not very responsive.
Yolanda was first transported to Kaiser Permanente Antioch and later transferred to John Muir Medical Center, where doctors treated her for a brain bleed and performed emergency surgery. Despite those efforts, she never regained consciousness. 7 days later, on October 3rd, 2025, Yolanda Ramirez passed away after being removed from life support. For her family, the loss quickly turned into questions. In the months that followed, they pushed for access to the body camera and in-car footage because they wanted to understand exactly what happened during those final moments. Eventually, on February 27, 2026, they were allowed to view a redacted version of the recordings. What followed added another layer of uncertainty to the case. The official autopsy, conducted by the Contra Costa County coroner, ruled the death as resulting from natural causes. However, the family later arranged for an independent autopsy that reached a different conclusion and argued that blunt force trauma and asphyxiation connected to the restraint played a role. In early 2026, the Ramirez family filed a federal civil rights and wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Brentwood, alleging excessive force, elder abuse, battery, and false arrest. That case remains active, and no settlement has been announced.
Watch her take her last breath, watch the warmth of her body leave. It's just unnecessary what happened to her, and we're really angry. We want answers. We want justice. It should not happen to a senior citizen in our community. and the Brentwood Police Department is responsible for.
At the same time, the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office continued reviewing the incident under the law enforcement-involved Fatal Incident Protocol. As of now, no criminal charges have been filed against the officers involved. A public coroner's inquest has also been scheduled, where evidence will be reviewed and a jury will help determine the official manner of death. Since then, the case has led to broader discussions about how physical force should be used during arrests involving elderly people, especially in situations where there was no report of a weapon or immediate threat. Others point out that officers stated they followed procedure, gave repeated instructions, and responded quickly once the medical emergency became clear. Right now, parts of the story are still being argued and investigated, but for the Ramirez family, the question has remained the same from the beginning: how a routine visit for a doctor's appointment turned into something they never expected to happen. In September 2025, a 19-year-old German mountaineer named Moritz Heidemann set out to climb Searles in the Stubai Alps of Austria, expecting it to be another normal training day as he worked toward bigger goals in the future. Instead, it became a moment he would probably never forget. Searles stands at around 2,700 meters in the Tyrol region near Innsbruck and is well known among hikers and climbers for its beautiful views and challenging terrain. However, this young climber, who runs the Manaslu Maniac channel and is training hard for an eventual 8,000-meter Himalayan peak, was pushing a loose scree gully on an exposed overhang as part of his normal Alps preparation.
Fuck, Alter. Rechts, von mir aus rechts, oder was? Du meinst links, oder was? Der hier. Ja, guck mal. Es bricht alles weg. Ich muss irgendwie links runter eigentlich.
He and his friends Toby, Benny, and Hen were not roped up and carried only basic hiking gear. But when Moritz stepped onto what looked like solid ground on that unstable overhang, this happened.
Okay, ich mach's jetzt. Hilf mir, hilf mir! Hilf mir! Ihr müsst jetzt! Ihr müsst! Ihr müsst! Ihr müsst! Nein, der geht nicht! Ich muss runter! Ihr müsst! Ich bin in der Zone.
For several long moments, there was no quick solution. Moving too fast risked making the rock collapse even more, but staying still was not much better. Slowly, with encouragement from his friends, and by carefully testing each new hold before putting weight on it, Moritz managed to work himself back onto more stable ground and away from the exposed section without falling. After taking time to recover, the group eventually continued the climb, reached the summit, completed their challenge, and made it safely back down. No rescue services were called, and nobody was injured. Later, Moritz reflected on what happened and admitted that part of the reason for choosing that line was not wanting to turn back and wanting to continue upward. He also pointed to poor route choice, underestimating the loose terrain and how quickly scree can shift under body weight. Fortunately, this ended as a close call and not something worse. But moments like this show how quickly conditions can change in the mountains, because sometimes the ground that looks the safest is the one that moves first. On Thursday, May 15, 2026, a small single-engine aircraft, a 1963 Piper Cherokee, took off from Akron-Fulton International Airport in Ohio for what was expected to be a normal training flight, the kind of flight that happens every day with pilots practicing approaches and landings before returning safely to the runway. A few miles away sat Coventry Crossing, a quiet suburban neighborhood in southern Akron, where families were spending an ordinary afternoon at home. Children were sleeping, people were working, and nothing about the day suggested anything unusual was about to happen. On board the aircraft were two experienced aviators, the aircraft owner acting as the pilot and a certified flight instructor. Their plan was simple. They were practicing landing approaches, repeating patterns around the airport, and refining routine procedures. Everything appeared normal at first, but during the second landing attempt that afternoon, something changed. Instead of lining up smoothly with the runway, the aircraft drifted wider than expected during the turn. At low altitude, there was very little time to recover. Inside the home at that moment was Colton, known as CJ, along with his two young children and the family dog. His partner was away at work. CJ had been downstairs when he heard a sudden violent sound above him. At first, there was confusion, but within seconds he realized something had crashed into the house. Without waiting to figure out exactly what happened, he ran upstairs, grabbed both children, got the dog, and rushed everyone outside. They made it out only moments before the fire spread further through the damaged home. Remarkably, everyone inside the house escaped without injuries. But the two men inside the aircraft did not survive the crash. Authorities later said the damage from the impact and fire was severe enough that formal identification required additional testing before releasing names publicly. The home suffered major structural damage and may not be recoverable. The family was suddenly left without a place to return to and had to rely on temporary housing, while support from neighbors and the local community began to grow around them. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board, along with other agencies, are still examining what happened in those final moments. Early attention has focused on the windy conditions, the low-altitude turn, and how quickly control was lost during the approach.
Stacey King is organizing the dinner, and though she doesn't know the family personally, she says she knew she had to help.
I was actually shocked that something like that could happen, and I put myself in their place. They're a young married couple with 2 kids. I couldn't even sleep, trying to think of what I could do to help out.
Right now, there are still more questions than answers. But what stands out most is how quickly an ordinary afternoon changed, and how a routine flight ended only seconds away from becoming an even larger tragedy on the ground. On June 27, 2021, 2 men arrived at Goulburn Airport in southern New South Wales, Australia, expecting to experience what should have been an unforgettable day in the sky. For many people, tandem skydiving is their first step into the sport, allowing them to jump while attached to an experienced instructor who handles the technical side of the descent. That morning, 37-year-old tandem instructor Stephen Hoare prepared for another routine jump. He had completed thousands of jumps and was known by friends and family as someone who genuinely loved skydiving and the community around it. Attached to him was his student, 32-year-old Alex Albie Welling, who appeared relaxed and excited before boarding the aircraft, smiling and joking with others before takeoff. The aircraft used for the jump was a modified Cessna 182, a type commonly used for skydiving operations because of its ability to carry jumpers to altitude efficiently. Nothing about the morning suggested anything unusual. As the plane reached jumping height and the group prepared to exit one by one, Stephen and Alex moved toward the open doorway. It was a routine moment, repeated countless times before. But as they exited the aircraft, something unexpectedly went wrong. Part of their tandem harness, known as the Y-strap, became caught on a metal step attached outside the aircraft. The step had reportedly been installed earlier, but had not gone through proper approval processes. Instead of falling away from the aircraft and beginning free fall as planned, the pair were suddenly pulled backward and left hanging beneath the moving plane. People inside the aircraft quickly realized this was no normal delay. Stephen and Alex remained suspended upside down below the aircraft with no way to free themselves. What had started as excitement became confusion confusion and then urgency within seconds. The pilot immediately began trying to help. According to later reports, he attempted several emergency actions and even briefly tried reaching toward them with an emergency knife while keeping control of the aircraft. On the ground, support crews moved into position and attempted to assist as the plane made low passes over the runway. For several minutes, efforts continued to free them safely. Eventually, at approximately 100 meters above the ground, the pair became detached from the aircraft, but the altitude was too low for reserve parachutes to fully deploy. Stephen Hoare and Alex Welling suffered fatal injuries from the fall. Investigations later focused heavily on the modified metal step and the procedures surrounding aircraft safety, but court proceedings found that the modification created a snag point that should have been identified and removed before operations continued. Evidence also pointed to gaps in communication and safety checks that could have reduced the risk. In March 2026, the operator and its director were found guilty of serious workplace safety breaches, and financial penalties were imposed. The court heard that simple measures such as approved engineering changes, clearer procedures, and better final checks may have prevented the accident entirely. One moment from the court proceedings stayed with many people. Stephen Hoare's father spoke directly and said he held no hatred toward those involved, saying there had been no intention for this to happen, and instead focusing on making sure lessons were learned. Skydiving will always carry risk, but what made this case difficult for many people was that this was not caused by weather, a bad landing, or a decision made in freefall. According to the findings, it came from something small that was added to the aircraft and was not fully understood until it was too late. If you stayed till here, thank you so much. If you have any suggestions or a case you want me to cover next, just drop it in the comments.